So the Warriors sent Jordan Poole, a protected first-round pick in 2030, and a second-round pick in 2037 to the Wizards for Chris Paul. That was a big trade. That was a really, really big trade and a really, really big deal at the time. Jordan Poole is a good player. I want to get that out first because I think throughout a lot of the discourse that had happened throughout the playoffs, a lot of discourse that happened even in the beginning of the regular season when Draymond punched him. Throughout the season, he was up and down. He was inconsistent, and especially in the playoffs. I want to make it clear, Jordan Poole is a good player. I think he's actually going to do really good on the Wizards. New scenery, new city, put all that stuff between him and Draymond behind him. He is a champion at the end of the day, and he contributed real impact to the Warriors winning that championship. He was just as vital as anybody else on that team, and he played real minutes, and he was really impactful in that Warriors championship run. All that being said, I don't think that the Warriors could have moved forward with Jordan Poole and Draymond Green on the same team together. It wasn't going to work in my mind. So they say we're going to make a swing for the fences and get Chris Paul. And part of the reason I think they go for Chris Paul is because what were you asking Jordan Poole to do? When Steph or Clay was off the court, mainly Steph, but when Steph was off the court, Jordan Poole was looked at as the secondary go-to ball handler, the guy who's going to run the second unit, the guy who's going to have the ball in his hands, make the decisions to run the offense. There were times during the 21-22 season, the year they won the championship, that he looked like he was capable of that. During last season, during the playoffs, he did not look like he was capable of running a second unit. Now, so what do the Warriors say we're going to get? We're going to get the best floor general in the NBA. We're going to get one of the best floor generals of all time. We're going to add Chris Paul to this unit. Now, personally, I'm split. I see both sides of this. I see the good and the bad. On the good, like I said, they get a floor general. They get a guy who can run the second unit. Yes, I think Chris Paul should and will come off the bench for them. I think he'll finish a lot of games, but I think he won't start these games. He will come off the bench to start most of these games throughout the regular season, but he will finish a lot of games on the court. Don't know necessarily what that looks like in terms of, I guess you make Clay the 3. It doesn't sound amazing, but they did it a lot the year they won the championship, where it would be Poole, Clay, and Steph on the court together. We've seen it happen. It's not impossible. CP3 also is known to be a guy who, the Warriors don't always do this, but there may be some times where they're either in a slump, Steph's not necessarily hitting the shots, Clay's not hitting the shots, and they're scrambling for some offense. Chris Paul has proven to be a guy who can slow the ball down, get to his spot on that little free throw, elbow jumper extended, and knock down that jumper at a decent, respectable clip. On the flip side, Chris Paul's 38 years old. Chris Paul's not the defender that he used to be. I'll give him solid because he has the mind to be a solid defender, but his body doesn't move as fast as it used to. Excuse me. I don't think it will be an issue, but the other, I guess I'll say, downside of this is Chris Paul and Steph, I don't want to say they have beef, but they got at least a documented history in terms of some really good rival games against each other. Those 2014, 2015, 2013 to 2015, he windowed, maybe even 2016 to an extent once Kevin Durant got there, because then he was on the Rockets and that Rockets team took them to 7. But those Warriors-Clippers games, if this ain't your first stream, you've heard me talk about how much I loved that Warriors-Clippers back and forth era. I'm excited to see this for Chris Paul. Chris Paul is biased, one of my favorite players. He's my favorite point guard of all time. There's no bias hidden there. He's my guy. I think the Warriors is an opportunity for him to play for a contender again. I like the move. It comes with a lot of questions, but I think some of the best moves, or the moves that have the potential to have a really big impact, there's good and bad to all those types of moves. The moves that are like, oh, this could be something big, there's an upside and a downside to it. It's a risk, but I like the risk. Larry says Warriors need some size, not a 38-year-old point guard. I agree to an extent. Part part of me will agree that the Warriors could use some more size. I loved what Looney did for them in the postseason this year. He was absolutely phenomenal. I would like to see a improvement at maybe at the power forward or the backup big. But looking just around the league, I don't know. Or to me, it wasn't a lot of options out there available for them to make a move to get bigger. I think they saw opportunity to go after Chris Paul because I think they felt like they needed some depth at the guard position more than they needed some depth in the front court. And we'll get into some free agency, looking at some guards later on in the show. But looking at some of the free agent guards that are available, I think they were better off, or I think they felt that they were better off of making a swing at Chris Paul and trying to continue and stretch out this championship window as long as possible. And I'm going to read these comments in a second, but another thing I think that went into this Warriors trade for Chris Paul is a new GM. And what do we always say? New GMs want to do their things. New GMs want the future, the new GMs, new owners, whatever, want the future success of their team to feel like it came from them and not feel like they just continued on what the last guy did. It's dumb as it sounds. Egos are a real thing. I expected the Warriors to move off of either Poole or Draymond. Well, we'll get to Draymond in a second. But I wish Poole the best of luck. I think the Wizards are going to be a good look for him. And I'm not mad at the trade for the Warriors standpoint. Jordan Poole is going to have a breakout season away from Steph Curry. I think he will. My boy, I don't agree with him to an extent, but my boy G says that he expects Jordan Poole to either be at 30 or be around 30 going into this season. I'm seeing like maybe 25, 24. I think he's going to be very inefficient. And that's the only knock that I think people are going to say about him. Midway through the season, we're going to look at his numbers. They're going to be not as efficient as we're used to seeing. But that's also going to be because he no longer has the gravity of Steph and Clay. And defenses are going to be honed on him now. Like the defenses are going to be looking at Jordan Poole as the first option to stop. And that's going to be something different for him. That's going to be new for him. We'll see how he does with it.